Hi and welcome to part 1 of the sketchbook series. So I bought myself a A5 sketchbook, and I wanted to sort of have a little book that I could maybe take with me some places, and so I was looking for quite sort of a nice generous thickness of paper, and I also found out that this is also mixed media as well. So if I wanted to do something in watercolour or watercolour pencils, that would work well. But then I thought to myself, well, why not turn it into a sketchbook series and draw different animals on each side. And the good thing with this sketchbook is if I wanted to sort of remove the page, then there's a perforated section, you can just rip it off. But I'm possibly with this one going to be keeping it as like a wildlife or animal journal, sort of different sketches and that. So I got this one off of Amazon, and because it's sort of quite posh, I paid a bit more money for it. But you can get any type of A5 sketchbook that you want. And so then I found this beautiful little chocolate Labrador, and I thought that'd be a really good one to start. And so I printed off. Well, I printed off 4 to a page, so it kind of I think goes to about A6 size. And then that way it's not filling up the whole page, but it's framed nicely on the sketchbook paper. And then what I did, I transferred the line art over. So what I did was this is some Sarrel transfer paper. And so you put the darker bit down and you put the reference picture on top, and then you transfer over the line art, and you just put in as little or as much as you want. And basically what you're doing is providing the outline to the more important parts. So that's where we're at. Now you can, if you don't have transfer paper, you can transfer over using graphite pencil. There is a video on my YouTube channel that shows you how to do this. But I mean, what you would do is you would colour that in, all of that back piece in with like an HB or a 2B pencil, flip it over and then trace the outline, and then it would get transferred over. And so this line art will actually disappear under the layers of pencils. So I'm using polychromos pencils, so mainly obviously browns because it's a chocolate Labrador, but there are other colours in there as well. And I'm thinking actually of adding a cinnamon in there. Let's have a look. I think that would work really well, especially around the nose. So that's cinnamon, especially around the nose and the mouth. And actually that is cinnamon. Maybe a beige red as well. So they're right next to each other in the colour family, but not 100% sure on that one at the moment. But the final materials that I will use will be in the materials list. So this reference I got off of Pexels, and the person whose reference photo I've used, that will be shown on the materials list as well. So I'm going to get started. Just zoom in for you. And I'm going to get started on the eyes, which is where I usually make a start. Now I would recommend either using either glassine paper or a blank piece of paper so that you don't smudge or wipe the line art off. So I'm just going to get that. So I've got a blank piece of paper. I've got plenty of glassine paper, but this is the bit that's handy for me. Okay, I'm going to zoom in on my reference photo just to sort of have a look to see what's happening with the eyes, and I am going to start off with, now there's light shining from the camera in the dog's pupils. I am not going to include that light because because it's kind of like a reflection of the camera flash. So I'm just going to do this as if that camera flash is not there. So now with this paper, because it's a lot smoother than what I would usually use, this is going to take a lot less layers. So I'm going to start with this eye. I've got the black here, and I am going to, just bear with me, so you've got the highlight there, which you don't want to, you don't want to colour that bit in, and then around so I'm just making sure that I'm just drawing this in walnut brown. So I just want to sort of plan the structure of the eye. So this is walnut brown. So I've got that there. Okay, and we've got coming around there. We've got that bit there. And see where we're drawing on a smaller surface. The finer details can be slightly fiddly, but also we'll find that this actually will be done much quicker. And the pressure that we're using, if you're new to my tutorials, is light to medium, but on this paper will be more along the lighter end of the pressure. So we're just like sketching that in. Okay, so then I'm going to draw in with the black. So you've got around here, just got putting in the pupil. Like that. And what we're going to do is we're going to sort of keep building up the layers. We don't, what tooth there is on this surface, we don't want to collapse it, because then we won't be able to add anything. Now I always start off with the eyes. Just going to use, I have got a white here, just going to go over that. Should just find use that ivory. Okay, right, so back in with the walnut brown. So it's slightly darker brown around the pupil. Now what I usually say is don't worry too much about getting it completely the same as the drawing. Yes, we're going for realism, but we're not going for like photorealism. And then so I'm using slightly sharper pencils than I normally would. If I was using pastel matte, then these would be blunt because I would be layering up. So this is a brown ochre. And what we don't want is the tooth of the paper peeking through. And I'm going very, very lightly here. Let's just take that walnut brown again. And I'm keep referring back to my reference photo. Just making sure I'm putting this in the right place. We're also not going to get this exactly the same colour either because it's a photo, and the photos going to give us totally different colours to what we've got available. Just going to sharpen the black again because I want that to be a bit darker. So I'm going very, very lightly. If you over sharpen it, you're in danger of, snapping the end off. Now the eye will sort of change slightly when we get to the point when we're adding fur around it. It will settle into the picture. So I'm using dark sepia, and then under here just using that for the outline, just at the top here. I don't know if you should be able to see this differently because I've got the light shining on it, so it's kind of like making the eye look shiny. But just coming down here, just want that to be a bit darker towards the bottom. So I'm going very lightly here. And then I'm going to use the raw umber just to go around the edge here. Oh. So I would say the eyes are going to be the most fiddly part of this. Once we move on to doing the fur, it'll be a lot better. But just, it's worth taking our time over this. And you can already see it's making a difference already. Okay, so then I'm going to let's test this one out. Yeah, I'm just going to go in with the cinnamon. Oh, sorry about that. And just around the rim of that eye, it's lighter. What we don't want to do is just drag that cinnamon into the darker colour, because it'll smudge. And then coming down from there, I actually am going to use the beige red. So just coming in around there. Like that. And then under the eye, I'm going to come back in with the cinnamon again. So it comes in like that. So I'm keeping this in the book, but if you want to sort of take your piece of paper out of the sketchbook, that's absolutely fine. You know, you do what's easiest for you. And you know, don't worry if it doesn't look completely like mine. Everyone's going to be different. And then I'm going to come back in with the walnut brown. And we don't want to go in to the cinnamon that we've already added. So it's slightly thicker on this side. Okay. And that's one eye done. So next we're going to move on to the other eye. drink. Okay, so again we're going to start with the black, and I'm just wanting to sort of map this area out a bit. So we're just doing the pupil, and we are going to draw around the highlights. There's another little one on the edge there. And then I'm going to use the walnut brown again. So remember, don't colour in those highlighted areas. And just light pressure, just keep going back round like that. Then it's the raw umber again. And we're just going over round the top there like that. And I'm going to use the dark sepia just to go around the eye. So we're not rushing this. So take our time, using the right pencil pressure and getting those shapes in. And it sort of comes out around here. That needs coming down there. Okay, just going to use the black again just to sort of make that slightly darker. Okay, and then I'm going to use the raw umber for the moment, just to sort of sketch in the rest of that eye. And I'm just keep looking back at my reference photo just to make sure I'm going in the right areas. You can already see it come into life just by doing the eyes. Okay. Just by making those small little lines with the different colours, really sort of starts to bring it all out. Right, so this bit under here is slightly darker. So what we're going to do is we're going to get that cinnamon in first. So that's going right around there. So we have a line there. And then I'm going to use, let's have a look at this Van Dyke brown a moment. I'm just going to sharpen that. Oh. It's alright, the leads come out. Right. Ouch. Okay, that's better. So got it in a pencil extender because the pencil's getting a bit short. And then I've just taken some of my nail with it. Okay, so very lightly there with the Van Dyke brown. We want to be able to see the cinnamon there. And then we just come across around here. Okay, and then just going to use the whites of the dog's eye looks a bit sort of pink, so I'm going to use the beige red very, very lightly. So try not to bring in the other colours because otherwise it's going to make it look a bit muddy. Okay. And then I'm just going to sort of come around here with that beige red, but don't go into the brown. Okay, so I'm just bringing that around here a bit because it's very light around the dog's eye. Right, okay, so we're going to move back over to this one and we're going to start adding the fur details around this eye, just to sort of, you know, bring that eye out a bit more. And then it could be that we might need to balance the colours up in the eye a bit more, so we'll see how we get on with that. So I'm going to carry on with the beige red and very lightly bring it down there. So we have to go in the direction that the fur is going, otherwise this isn't going to look right. So we're just very lightly adding the pencil detail. And it's very light above there as well. Sorry, just taking a drink. So just go careful with the lighter colours that you don't drag in the darker colours. And then also just remember we have to sort of go a lot lighter than we normally would, because there isn't the tooth available on this surface to actually go into a lot of like rich depth cut in deep colours like we normally would. Okay, so we've got that bit in. Right. So we're going to go in with the light pressure base layers, so light pressure, and we're going to use the burnt sienna, which is that one. It's like a reddy browny colour, and the raw umber, which is that one. Right. So I'm just having a look at the dog here. So yeah, this is definitely what we really want for like the base layer. So we just want to follow around lightly. Now we want to go careful with the layering, although because we want like the different sort of shades to shine through, we don't want to be pressing too firmly that we can't build up with that. So I'm just going to be working around here for the moment. And if you notice, I'm lightly going from bottom to top, because this gives a very good texture. And if you find that your drawing's looking untidy, as you're going in and adding these layers. Don't worry about it. It's what happens, and layering up generally isn't the tidiest of things. So I'm going ever so lightly, as if like I'm barely touching the surface. And I'm just adding this as a base layer, just to get a nice warm colour down. So I want this to sort of curve slightly, because then it's going to come out that way. Just literally going so lightly over. So this part's always going to be darker because of the contour of the face. So what we want to do is, whilst we're layering up, we also want to give us some room at the end, just to sort of balance out the colours a bit more. And if you're sort of not familiar with line art, this basically gives us an idea of the contour of the animal and the different areas where the fur changes. Okay, so I'm just going to come in here. So this part is going to be lighter than around here. And also, if you look at the nose of the dog, the fur goes in all different directions, so we have to go careful with that as well. So I'm just going to lightly come in here. Because the dog has short fur, then we just do short pencil strokes as well. And in between, just keep looking at how the fur is looking in between the eyes as well. And the slight direction change as we're going across. So of course this part's the darker area. So we don't want any of the white of the paper coming through. So I'm just marking this in roughly for the moment because we are concentrating around that area. But I just want to sort of map and block the colours in. Okay, so just keep looking at that direction as this flicks up where the ear is. Like that. So it's, as you can see, it's looking messy at the moment, which is absolutely fine. So I'm just following and looking at the way that that fur is going. I'm not too worried about this part at the body part at the moment, as it's just the, you know, the head I'm concentrating on. Oh. And again, this flicks as well. So this part, it starts to sort of come in and fan. Like that. Some very small markings with the pencil. Okay, so I'm not going to use the burnt sienna at the moment. I want to use the walnut brown, just to sort of develop some shadows. So around here, we're just slightly adding the darker layers. We want to keep that lighter area in. And then we want to come in around here. Now, if we were using pastel mat, you'd be able to get a lot more detail on this. But as this is sketchbook style, this is absolutely fine with what we're doing. Oh, keep hitting that camera, sorry about that. Just want to come in here. Right, I'm just going to use the burnt sienna as well, because I just want to sort of bring that in up there as well, just to sort of see where we're at. And this has got a beautiful richness about this colour. Just keep turning your pencil if you feel it's going a bit blunt. Okay. Right, so let's just concentrate around here. So we're just going to fix on around this area before we sort of move off. It's so easy to sort of, you know, jump ahead of yourself and you know, move along before you're actually ready to do that. So we're building up the layers nicely. So we're just going over like that. So I'm just like layering this part. And then I'm leading on to sort of the base layers of the dark area there as well. We want to sort of make sure that we have texture. Right, I'm just going to use the walnut brown again. Just to sort of bring in those darker areas around the eyes. And of course here sort of comes in quite a bit darker. Like that. And then I'm just going to use that dark sepia as well. Just to sort of bring in that fur. Sorry, I went a bit quiet then. This is also really good to do on drafting film as well. And you'll get totally different outcome on every single one that you do. Just going to come in with the cinnamon again. It's quite lightish around here. And use that beige red. Right. Let's get some Van Dyke brown in here. So just doing very, very small pencil strokes because we just want to build in that texture, and you know, we've got less room for manoeuvre as the surface is that smooth. Just going to bring that in there as well. You can see that this is quite a darker area. So we really want to sort of build up the browns. I'm just wondering whether the nougat would be a good fit. Oh, that's Bista. What's that looking like? Sorry about that, just hit the thing again. Let me just have a look at this Bista. Right, so I'm just, is that, yeah, I think that might be okay. Just going to see what this white can do for the highlighted bit around here. We're not pressing hard. And we're just coming in down here to lighten that area. Okay. Right, let's try the Bista down here. Let's get this really sharp. Oh, so sorry about that. So it's going to be darker there. And then it sort of just comes down that way. Right, it's kind of like all blending in together at the moment. So I need to sort of fix it to sort of give it some more tonal values. So this is the walnut brown. Just bringing it through there. I want that to be a bit lighter. So this bit needs to be darker. So what we're doing here is we're not actually adding all of the hair, we're adding in toned areas, so we don't necessarily sort of need to be drawing every single piece of, you know, all the hair, individual hairs. So I think that's more like it. So this part, so we've got that edge of the fur there. So I'm just talking out loud at the moment. Right, this part, I'm just going to go in with the burnt sienna again. I'm going very lightly. Still with the pressure, barely touching the paper. And we're just gonna build this up. And just make sure that you're following the direction that the fur is going in. So it's just coming in under there. Just using this as a base layer. This is going to be the lighter part, but I'm just building up a base layer because this is going to be quite dark. The more colour we add, the better it's going to look. Like that. So it's looking a bit flat at the moment. That's fine. Oh. Okay. Let's bring that up there. So what we want to do next is use the walnut brown just to sort of bring in some darkness very lightly on the surface there. Around here it's going to be quite dark. Because this is where there's no sort of light as such reaching that part. So I'm just sorting out the tonal values there. Sorry, I should be finishing my sentences quicker. Okay. So that is going to be darker there. So I think what we're going to do is we're going to work on this side and then move across. It sort of tends to sort of work. For me, it tends to work better that way. Okay, let's just add some more of the burnt sienna. Very lightly. So this is layering up lovely. And then we want to come in with the dark sepia to make our darks darker. This is where we really want to build it up, not just by pressing firmly, but because we're going over the layers lightly each time. And by making our darks dark and our lights light, this is when you start to sort of see it all coming together. Now at the moment you're not seeing the same colour as I am on the screen because there's a light shining overhead. Now we don't want it too dark all over, then it sort of goes a bit too flat and there's no differences in between. Right, this is where this is going to be darker than that part. And so this, you just keep looking at the direction. You can see how this is looking. On there. And then I'll just bring in a bit more of the burnt sienna. because then what this will look like is it'll be coming in like that. So we're gradually we're gradually building in our tonal values. So like around here, you're going to see different shapes. So this part is darker. And again, we're just working in those pencil markings. Like that. Right, so I just want to get some more of that burnt sienna in. Just build up those layers lightly. Now it's looking a bit dark there, but then the ear, when we work on it, will show it slightly different. So it's just going to try. Oh, sorry to keep hitting that camera. I got a new bar. That's Vandyke Brown. That's burnt umber. Okay. Right. I do have nougat somewhere. Some looks it's in another pencil pot. Yes. Right. Okay, so just bring in some of this. So I think that raw umber has given it too much of a yellowy undercoat, so I'm not really sort of happy with that, but we can fix that. Something needs to be done around here. Just maybe sort of not so light pink, but okay. I'm just going to try my Tombow eraser just to get rid of some of that raw umber, because I'm not happy with it. Yep, that's taken off some of it. And then we'll use the nougat. Right, let's just remove some of that. So this is good, these Tombow erasers, because they can get rid of some of the colour pencil. Don't overly want to get rid of the line art at the moment. Okay, right, let's just sharpen this a bit more. Oh, it's broken off. Right, let's try that again. Okay. Okay, let's just see how this one's going. Yeah, that's looking a lot better. Just going to remove that raw umber. Oh. So what we can do on this as well is we can use a subtraction technique. So for instance, let's just clean the end of this Tombow eraser off. Okay. So you can get in some tonal values there. Okay, so I'll just carry on around here, just building up those layers. So this is a much nicer shade of brown. And it works great as a base layer. So we're just sort of going in with those short pencil strokes. Okay, so we'll just put that in for now. Okay. I'm just moving that over around here. And just be mindful of the fact that this is all going in different directions. I'm just sort of building that up around there. And then you're just following in the direction that the fur is going in. So it's kind of like fanning out. Like that. So it is harder, I think, doing it on smooth paper than it is on pastel mat. Lots of people find pastel mat really hard to use, whereas I find this a lot harder to use. I think purely because I've been using pastel mat for so long, and you know, sharpen that again, and I'm used to sort of adding loads of layers of pencil, possibly. I'm just sort of wanting to plot the underlayers in of this. So I'm going to sort of bring this down and work on the ear. And then balance all that up around here first, next. So what we want is lots of fluffy texture. See, you may still think that this is getting away from us. To be patient, trust the process, and I always find it's a good piece of advice to listen to, and I even myself, you know, tell myself to listen, you know, listen to my own advice and trust in the process. Because it can be quite easy to sort of say, right, no, this isn't going right. I need to start again. And, you know, It's easy to sort of do that, but we've sort of invested some time in here, and it's just good to stick with the process, trust in what you're doing, and it's an experience. So if you just look how fluffy this ear is. So at the moment this is all one colour, but we are going to add some darker areas through it, and then that will mean that we can sort of balance up around here as well. So I'm just putting all of the nougat down as a base layer. Because, you know, just stick with the process. And we can, this is all looking very brown at the moment, and it's not looking like loads of different shades of brown, but that's because we put our base layers in first. That's the foundations, and you know, and like all foundations, we build on it. And just coming in with this part now. So then we're coming into this area. So if you notice, all this fur is going in different directions. Okay, so that's the first layer. I think the next layer will be going to go in with the Van Dyke brown, I think. So under here we've got dark areas of fur coming underneath. And when we're doing the underneath parts of the fur, then we sort of just come up and under. And if you look at the edge here as well, they're all different, all of the bits of fur are in different directions. And what we want to do once we finish the ear is then build up that area with the burnt sienna. So we've got another lighter patch through there. So just building up these short flicky movements with the pencil just to make it nice and fluffy. Got a little darker area under there. So I want that to be slightly darker, so I'm going to use the walnut brown under there. And it needs to sort of not come in like a straight line because it's fur. So we've got that bit there. Just going for a darker swatch of fur there. And then back in with the Van Dyke brown. And I'm just going in all sort of different directions here. Right, walnut brown. So it's quite dark at the bottom there. And then just sharpen this a bit more. We just got bits of like darker fur just sort of coming in through this part where it's on the inside. I'm just sort of cross hatching that bit. And where it's really dark against the ear, I'm going to come in and add a bit of the black because I want that to pop a bit more. And then also around here as well. So that's in our like deeper, darker sort of shadows. So I get too near the camera and I'm fully trying to concentrate. So this bit really is dark. So this paper has actually taken a lot more layers than I thought it was going to. So what we're doing is giving more shadow and more shape to the dog. What I want to do is just get some sharpness on that burnt sienna. So I've jumped from the ear, but I just want to sort of bring this out a bit. So I just want that to look the right shape. So that's adding more depth around there. And I'm just going to sort of flick that up through there, and that is looking lovely. So let's just zoom out a minute. So it's still showing a slightly different colour to what is in front of me, but it's coming out really well. So this bit really is falling into place. I just want to add a bit of walnut brown to this part here. Adds a bit more warmth. Yeah, I think that's coming on really well. Right, so with that walnut brown, I just want to bring that onto that part there. And you've got like all those lovely rich sort of browns coming through. Right. So let's just add a bit more on there. What else we got it here? This is the burnt sienna still. And then of course that bit will be better once we've added all the more detail. Right, okay, back on the ear then. So Just gonna continue with Van Dyke Brown. Just building that up. So it looks like I'm adding lots of pressure to this, but I'm not actually. Right, and let's go for some, there it is, dark sepia. Just to sort of darken this part here. And then let's grab that walnut brown, because this part is darker but it's warmer. Like that. And so whilst we're doing this, then that needs sort of balancing out a bit more. So we want to go in with the black again. Just to sort of bring out the ear slightly, just very minutely. And then with the burnt umber, and let's just blend in some more of the walnut brown coming through. Okay, right, so I'm going to come in with some walnut brown around here. And then that bit's coming around. Just darken up the bottom area there. And let's come in with some Van Dyke Brown. So we're just making this ear look nice and fluffy and layering it up with all those lovely rich browns. So I've got a lighter part here, so just underneath that I'm just going to darken the underneath part. You can sort of see what adding colour to that ear has done for this side of the face. And by going in a different direction with the fur and you know, with the colour pencils, you can sort of see it's giving it a nice fluffy look. So walnut brown around here. And a bit of dark sepia, I think. Just to sort of run that through, but not through all of it. So what we don't want loads of white coming through, because there's a lot of brown fluffiness here. So what I'm trying to do is just add lots of different texture for that ear, so that we can, got the nougat, yeah, I'm going to use the nougat. So I want lots of different sort of fluffy texture, and I also want to do that by using lots of different browns. Right, let's use that walnut brown in there. And then we're going to come up and under through this part here. So that's like really showing up well. A bit more nougat, I think, on this part. Walnut brown. So we want the darks to be dark and the lights to be light. And we don't want to overwork it though. It's so easy to overwork it. But we just want enough texture and tones. So nougat. And walnut brown. Just sort of coming up through here. Okay, so that is starting to come together really nicely. Right, yeah, walnut brown through here as well. this is the bit where I think, yep, it's coming together. Because doing that and leaving it on its own, it was looking a bit isolated. Whereas now we can start truly balancing up those colours. And that's when trusting the process really comes in handy. Right, it's dark sepia, I think. Just to sort of bring in some darker areas. Okay. So now we kind of want to fix it around here a bit. So let's come in with the Van Dyke Brown. And we're just going to build up the layers around here. Like that. Okay. So if you have a look, it's darker around here. And this is just layering it up like that. And we want to run some of this through that burnt sienna. So it's quite fluffy at the top here. Right, let's come in with the walnut brown. So this needs to be darker. So again, we're not drawing the individual hairs. What we're doing is we're giving that impression that hair's there. What we're doing is just adding dark tonal values. I just want to come in with the nougat again. Just give it a good sharpen. And I'm just using this as the lighter area. So again, this will look slightly different when we're moving around here, but I'm just sort of working in and sorting this area out. So whilst what we're doing here is whilst we're adding colour, we're forever balancing it as well. And just keep looking at how that is, what that's looking like, you know, going through in those directions of the fur. So from around there, it's sort of going that way. And then it sort of fans in that way. And of course we've got some burnt sienna in there as well. So I'm just going to sort of plot that in. Just going to go over some of these bits here. So we're just plotting in the colours for the moment. Doesn't need to be colouring in the lines because it's fluffy. Okay, let's just so we've got the darker area coming through. Just wondering, this warm grey, do I want a warm grey one? One drop. Or a cold grey one. Right, because I want, whether that's going to do anything on this surface. Doesn't do too much at all. Let's have a look. Going to have a look at my Pablo white. If you don't have Pablo pencils, then don't worry about it. You can just use your usual white that you would use. Ah, yeah. This never fails. This is just adding a lightness some of that fur. And I just want to sort of blend that in as well. Just from the darker area around the eye before it goes into the burnt sienna. So we've got a bit of a highlight there. And then I'm going to balance that up with a walnut brown. Okay. Let's just come in a bit there with that. Right,